Did you know that 40% of our everyday grocery items are at risk of disappearing from shelves in the next few months? I'm not making this up. Experts are warning us about serious shortages that could empty store shelves by April. Picture this. You're at the store, grocery list in hand, but half the items you need are gone. Not just temporarily out of stock, completely unavailable. This nightmare scenario is becoming reality faster than anyone expected. Three major factors are creating this perfect storm. First, global supply chains are still recovering from pandemic disruptions. Second, extreme weather events have devastated crops worldwide, with agricultural yields down 23% in key growing regions. And third, industry consolidation has left us with fewer producers making our essential foods. I've spent weeks researching industry reports and talking to supply chain experts to identify exactly which items will disappear first. In this video, I'll reveal the 12 grocery essentials you need to stock up on right now before they vanish from shelves. Don't panic that only makes things worse for everyone. But after watching this video, you'll know exactly which items to gradually add to your pantry while you still can. This isn't about fear. It's about being prepared with facts. Stay with me until the end to learn not just what's disappearing, but also the smart alternatives you can use instead. Trust me, this information will save you money and stress in the coming months. Let's dive into the 12 essential grocery items that will vanish before April 2025. Number 12. Eggs. Let's talk about eggs. That breakfast staple we all take for granted. But here's the shocking truth. Experts are predicting a major egg shortage by early 2025. I've been tracking this situation for months, and what I'm seeing is honestly concerning for anyone who relies on eggs in their diet, which is pretty much all of us, right? The biggest culprit? Avian flu. This isn't just a small outbreak. The latest data from the USDA shows that since January, over 58 million birds have been affected across 47 states. That's the worst outbreak in American history. And unlike previous outbreaks that typically died down in summer, this new strain is proving resistant to seasonal changes. Just last month alone, 12 major egg farms in the Midwest reported new cases, forcing mass culling operations. I was talking to a farmer last week who had to cull his entire flock of 20,000 hens. "We've never seen anything like this," he told me. "It's devastating." He's not alone. Over 300 family farms have completely shut down operations since the beginning of the year. Think about that for a second. Generations of farming expertise just gone. But that's not the only problem. Chicken feed costs have skyrocketed by 32% in the last 6 months alone. Corn and soy, the main ingredients in chicken feed, are facing supply issues due to extreme weather events affecting harvests. The derecho windstorms that hit Iowa last summer destroyed nearly 40% of the state's corn crop, and that's just now impacting feed prices. What's even more concerning is the new regulations coming into effect in January. 17 states have now adopted cage-free requirements for egg producers. While great for animal welfare, it's reducing production capacity by about 30% for farms that make the transition. Many smaller producers are simply closing their doors rather than investing millions in new facilities. What does this mean for you and me? The American Egg Board is projecting price increases of up to 45% by early 2025. Think about that. A carton that costs $4 today could soon cost nearly $6. And in some regions, especially the Northeast and West Coast, prices could go even higher due to transportation costs. And it's not just about price. Several major retailers are already planning to limit egg purchases to 2 cartons per customer as supplies dwindle. Walmart and Kroger have already implemented these policies in certain regions during previous shortages, and they're expected to go nationwide by February. Here's something you might not know. The restaurant industry is already feeling the pinch. I spoke with a local bakery owner who told me they've increased prices on all their baked goods by 15% just to cover egg costs. Fast food breakfast menus are likely to see major changes too, with egg items either becoming more expensive or disappearing entirely. Here's what you need to do. First, consider buying powdered eggs as a backup. They last up to 10 years when stored properly and work perfectly in baking. My family started using them for cookies and cakes, and honestly, you can't tell the difference. Second, if you have freezer space, you can crack eggs into ice cube trays, freeze them, and store in freezer bags for up to a year. I've been doing this with eggs from my local farmers market when they go on sale. Some people are even starting small backyard flocks, with urban chicken keeping up 67% since last year. My neighbor just got 4 hens and says they're producing more than enough eggs for his family of 4. Plus, he swears they taste better than store-bought. Just check your local regulations before jumping in. For those worried about nutrition, consider alternative protein sources like chickpeas, which you can use to make scrambles that are surprisingly egg-like. Tofu is another great option. Firm tofu scrambled with a bit of turmeric for color makes a breakfast that's packed with protein and much more resistant to supply chain issues. Don't wait until the shelves are empty. Start incorporating these alternatives into your meal planning now, before everyone else catches on. I've already noticed powdered egg supplies dwindling on Amazon, with several brands showing limited availability. The time to prepare isn't when the shortage hits the news. It's right now. Number 11. Olive oil. First on our list is olive oil, that golden liquid so many of us use daily. If you've bought olive oil recently, you've probably noticed the shocking price tag. What used to cost $15 is now hitting $25 or more, and it's only getting worse. Here's the reality. Mediterranean olive groves are literally drying up. Spain, which produces nearly half the world's olive oil, just experienced its worst drought in 200 years. I spoke with a third-generation olive farmer last week who told me their harvest is down 60% from 5 years ago. The trees are stressed, producing fewer olives, and some are dying completely. Italy and Greece aren't faring any better. The latest agricultural reports show olive production down by a third across the entire Mediterranean basin. It's not just a bad year, it's a troubling trend that's worsening each season. What's happening right now is unprecedented. Major retailers are already limiting olive oil purchases in some European countries. Experts from the International Olive Council predict that by early 2025, premium extra virgin olive oil could become a luxury item rather than an everyday cooking staple. So what can you do? If olive oil is a staple in your kitchen, consider gradually building a small reserve, just a few extra bottles, stored in a cool, dark place. They'll last 24 months unopened. As for alternatives, avocado oil is your best bet for high-heat cooking with a similar health profile. For salad dressings, try walnut or flaxseed oil. And for everyday cooking, good old canola oil works just fine, even if it lacks that distinct Mediterranean flavor we love. This isn't just about paying more, it's about olive oil becoming genuinely hard to find. The time to prepare is now, before everyone else realizes what's happening. Number 10. Coffee shortage. Remember your morning cup of coffee? That daily comfort might soon become a luxury. Coffee production is facing a crisis unlike anything we've seen before. Brazil and Colombia, which produce over 50% of the world's coffee, have been hit with extreme weather patterns. Unusual frost in Brazil damaged nearly 30% of their coffee plants last season, while Colombia saw record rainfall washing away crops. Just last month, a major coffee industry report revealed that Arabica bean yields are down 22% compared to last year. What's worse? These aren't quick fix problems. Coffee plants take 3-4 years to mature, so we can't just plant more and solve this overnight. It's not just the weather causing problems. Coffee farming is incredibly labor-intensive. Each bean is still handpicked in most regions. But younger generations are leaving family farms for city jobs, creating a massive worker shortage. In Ethiopia, one of the oldest coffee-growing regions, farm labor has decreased by 35% in just 5 years. The math is simple. Less coffee produced plus increasing global demand equals skyrocketing prices. Industry analysts predict coffee prices could double by March 2025, with some specialty varieties becoming nearly impossible to find. What can you do? If you're a coffee lover, consider buying a few extra bags of your favorite beans now. Coffee can be frozen for up to 6 months without losing flavor. Or try exploring alternatives like chicory root or dandelion tea. They're becoming popular coffee substitutes that actually taste decent. The coffee shortage is real, and it's coming faster than most people realize. Let's move on to the next item that's about to disappear from your grocery store. Number 9. Certain fish species. Let's talk about fish. And I'm not just talking about any fish. I'm talking about certain species that might not make it to your dinner plate by April. Have you noticed salmon prices lately? They've jumped nearly 30% since last year. And it's not just salmon feeling the pressure. Here's the deal: our oceans are in trouble. According to the latest UN report released just months ago, over 35% of commercial fish populations are now being harvested at unsustainable rates. That's the highest percentage ever recorded. Think about this. For every wild-caught tuna that makes it to your sandwich, fishermen are pulling up 7 times more marine life that gets thrown back, often dead or dying. This bycatch problem has finally caught the attention of regulators. Just last month, the Pacific Fishery Management Council implemented strict new catch limits on cod, halibut, and red snapper. These emergency measures came after shocking new data showed population declines of over 40% in just 3 years. Wild-caught salmon is particularly vulnerable. The 2024 salmon season in Alaska, which supplies nearly 80% of America's wild salmon, was the shortest in history at just 12 days. Scientists are blaming warming ocean temperatures that have disrupted their entire food chain. And here's something most people don't realize. Those beautiful orange-pink Chilean sea-bass fillets you see at the seafood counter, they might be completely gone by February. Not because they're extinct, but because new international treaties have finally closed loopholes that allowed overfishing. So what fish should you stock up on now? Focus on frozen wild salmon, canned tuna, and shelf-stable fish products. Prices for these items are already climbing weekly, and some varieties won't be restocked once current inventories run out. I've personally started buying an extra can of sustainably caught tuna each shopping trip. Not hoarding, just preparing. Because the reality is, your favorite fish dishes might need to change in the coming months. Number 8. Cocoa products. Let's talk about chocolate. Yes, that delicious treat we all love might soon become a luxury item. I hate being the bearer of bad news, but cocoa products are facing serious trouble. Just last month, cocoa futures hit an all-time high of $11,722 per ton. That's more than double what they were at the beginning of the year. Why? The cocoa crisis has multiple causes that have created a perfect storm. West Africa, particularly Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire, produces about 60% of the world's cocoa. But farmers there are battling extreme weather. First drought, then heavy flooding. This has led to devastating fungal diseases like black pod disease destroying up to 40% of crops in some regions. Here's something most people don't realize. The average cocoa farmer earns less than $1 per day. With such low wages, younger generations are abandoning cocoa farming altogether. The average cocoa farmer is now over 50 years old, with few young people willing to take over. Major chocolate companies know they're in trouble. Hershey's CEO recently admitted in an earnings call that they're very concerned about cocoa supply for the next 18-24 months. They've already started shrinking their chocolate bar sizes while keeping prices the same. That's called shrinkflation, and it's happening right now on your store shelves. What should you expect? Premium chocolate will disappear first. Those special dark chocolate bars with high cocoa content? Stock up now. Baking chocolate and cocoa powder will become increasingly rare and expensive by February. The crazy thing is, while some chocolate products vanish, the cheap stuff with minimal cocoa will stick around. But it won't taste like the chocolate you're used to. Companies are already experimenting with carob and other substitutes to stretch their dwindling cocoa supplies. If you're a chocolate lover or baker, consider gradually building a small stash of your favorite chocolate products now, while they're still available at somewhat reasonable prices. Because by April, chocolate as we know it might become a rare luxury. Number 7. Rice. Next on our list is something most of us eat weekly, if not daily: rice. This humble grain feeds over half the world's population, but it's facing serious threats right now. Have you noticed rice prices jumping up lately? There's a good reason. In the past 6 months, massive flooding has devastated rice fields across Asia. In Thailand and Vietnam, two of the world's biggest rice exporters, over 30% of rice paddies were underwater during critical growing periods. What's happening is unprecedented. Climate data shows rainfall in these regions is up 45% from historical averages. Rice plants can handle some water. They grow in paddies after all, but not the kind of flooding we're seeing now. But that's just part of the story. Several major producing countries have started limiting how much rice they'll sell to other nations. India, which normally exports 40% of the world's rice, recently announced they're cutting exports by half to make sure their own people have enough. China is stockpiling rice at record levels too. According to the latest agricultural reports, their reserves now hold enough rice to feed their entire population for 2 years. They know what's coming. For us, this means two things. First, certain varieties like jasmine and basmati rice will become hard to find by February. Second, the rice you can find will cost nearly double what you're paying today. If you rely on rice as a staple in your home, consider gradually building up a 3-month supply. Store it in airtight containers in a cool, dry place, and it'll stay good for up to 2 years. And here's a tip most people don't know. Ancient grains like farro, quinoa, and millet are great alternatives that aren't facing the same supply issues. They cook similarly to rice and provide even more nutrition. I've started mixing them with rice to stretch my supply, and honestly, my family prefers the taste now. Number 6. Certain dairy products. Let's talk about your morning coffee companion, milk. Remember when a gallon was under $3? Those days are vanishing faster than ice cream on a hot day. Dairy farms across the country are closing at an alarming rate. Just last month, data from the USDA showed we've lost over 2,000 dairy farms in the past year alone. That's roughly 5 family farms shutting down every single day. Why is this happening? For starters, feed costs have skyrocketed by 34% since last summer. Corn and hay prices are through the roof, and farmers simply can't afford to feed their herds. One dairy farmer in Wisconsin told me he's now paying almost twice what he did 2 years ago just to feed the same number of cows. But it gets worse. The recent consolidation in the dairy industry means just 4 major companies now control nearly 70% of all dairy processing in America. Small farms are getting squeezed out, and these big players are prioritizing longer shelf-life products over fresh options. So which specific dairy items should you be concerned about? First on the endangered list, organic milk. These specialized farms face even higher production costs, and many are converting back to conventional methods or closing entirely. Industry analysts predict a 25% drop in organic milk availability by spring. Next up, certain cheeses, especially imported varieties. European cheese imports are down 18% due to shipping issues and climate impacts on European dairy regions. Those specialty cheeses you love? Stock up now or prepare to pay double. Butter is another concern. With cream being diverted to more profitable products like ice cream, butter production has fallen by 12% compared to last year. The holiday baking season depleted reserves, and manufacturers are struggling to catch up. Yogurt varieties are also shrinking, with many smaller brands disappearing entirely. The trend toward shelf-stable alternatives means refrigerator space for traditional yogurt is getting cut in grocery stores nationwide. Here's a tip from someone who's been tracking this closely. Frozen butter can last up to a year in your freezer. And those shelf-stable milk alternatives? Now's the time to figure out which ones your family actually enjoys before you're forced to switch. The dairy aisle you're used to will look very different by April. Don't be caught off guard when your favorite products disappear or suddenly cost twice as much. Number 5. Citrus fruits. Let's talk about citrus fruits. Those bright, tangy oranges, lemons, and grapefruits we all love. I hate to break it to you, but they're in serious trouble. Have you noticed lemons costing nearly $1 each lately? That's just the beginning. According to the latest USDA report from January, citrus production is down a shocking 17% compared to last year, the lowest output in over 25 years. The main culprit? A devastating disease called citrus greening. This bacteria is spread by tiny insects and basically starves the trees to death. Once infected, trees produce bitter, misshapen fruit before dying completely. In Florida alone, production has plummeted by over 60% since this disease appeared. To make matters worse, extreme weather keeps hammering growing regions. California just experienced its driest February on record, while Florida's citrus belt was hit by 3 major freezes this winter. As one Florida grower told the Agricultural Times last month, "We've never seen conditions this bad in 3 generations of farming." What does this mean for you? Industry analysts predict orange juice prices will jump another 25 to 30% by summer. Fresh lemons and limes could become luxury items by April, with prices potentially doubling. Here's what's really concerning. Unlike some shortages that come and go, experts say the citrus crisis could last years, not months. Trees take 5, 7 years to mature, so we can't just plant more and solve the problem quickly. If you rely on vitamin C from citrus or use lemons and limes regularly in cooking, now's the time to consider alternatives or stock up on frozen juice. Some people are even growing dwarf citrus trees at home as a long-term solution. Don't wait until that last $5 bag of oranges disappears from your store. Plan ahead now while you still have options. Number 4. Vanilla. Let's talk about vanilla. And I'm not using that word to mean boring. Real vanilla is anything but boring right now in the global market. Remember the last time you baked cookies and added that teaspoon of vanilla extract? Well, that little bottle is about to become a luxury item. Vanilla prices have shot up 32% just in the past 6 months, and experts predict they'll double again before April. Here's the problem. 80% of the world's vanilla comes from Madagascar, where recent cyclones have devastated crops. These vanilla orchids take 3, 4 years to mature, so we can't just plant more and solve the problem overnight. What's making this worse is that labor shortages have hit vanilla farms hard. Vanilla cultivation is incredibly labor-intensive. Each flower must be hand-pollinated within 12 hours of blooming. With fewer workers available, production has plummeted. The latest industry reports show that major food companies are already stockpiling vanilla, leaving less for consumer products. Nestle and Unilever have secured massive contracts for the next 2 years, essentially cornering what's left of the market. I spoke with a specialty baker last week who told me she's already being waitlisted by her suppliers. She's paying triple what she did last year, and she's been told that by February, they might not have any to sell her at all. If you love baking or making homemade ice cream, here's my advice. Buy an extra bottle or 2 of pure vanilla extract now. Store it in a cool, dark place, and it'll keep for years. Or consider vanilla bean paste as an alternative. It's concentrated and gives even more flavor than extract. And if you do see vanilla completely vanish from your store shelves, don't worry. You can substitute maple syrup at a 1:1 ratio in most recipes. It won't taste exactly the same, but it adds that warm, complex flavor that vanilla usually provides. The vanilla shortage isn't just about missing out on your favorite cookies. It shows how fragile our food system really is, especially for ingredients we take for granted. Number 3. Wheat products. Let's talk about wheat products. Something most of us eat every single day without thinking twice. Your morning toast, that sandwich at lunch, the pasta dinner you love, all at risk. Ukraine and Russia together supply nearly 30% of the world's wheat exports. With ongoing conflicts in that region intensifying recently, wheat shipments have dropped by a staggering 42% since November. Ports are sitting idle, and farmers can't safely harvest their crops. But that's just half the story. Climate disasters have hammered wheat-growing regions worldwide. Kansas and Nebraska. America's breadbasket, states experienced their driest summer in 65 years, with wheat yields down 37%. Meanwhile, unprecedented flooding in parts of India destroyed over 2 million acres of wheat fields just last month. The numbers don't lie. Global wheat reserves are at their lowest point in 14 years. Industry analysts are predicting a 22% price increase on all wheat products by March. That's if you can find them at all. What does this mean for your kitchen? Bread, obviously. but also pasta, cereals, crackers, baking flour, and countless processed foods that contain wheat. Specialty items like organic wheat products and artisanal breads will likely disappear first, with basic items becoming increasingly expensive and scarce. I spoke with a local bakery owner last week who told me she's already having trouble sourcing certain flours. She's paying 40% more than she did just 4 months ago. Some suppliers won't even guarantee deliveries anymore. Here's what you can do. Stock up on flour now and store it properly in airtight containers. Bread freezes surprisingly well for up to 3 months. And consider alternatives like rice pasta, chickpea flour, or almond flour products, which aren't facing the same supply issues yet. When shopping, look for those yellow, limited supply tags starting to appear in the pasta and baking aisles. That's your signal to add a few extra packages to your cart while you still can. Number 2. Certain spices. Remember the last time you reached for your favorite spice to finish that perfect dish? Well, soon that jar might be empty, and staying that way. The spice world is facing a crisis unlike anything we've seen before. Climate change has hit spice-growing regions particularly hard. In Madagascar, where 80% of the world's vanilla comes from, increasingly severe cyclones have destroyed crops year after year. The latest reports show a 35% decrease in vanilla production just this past season. But it's not just vanilla. Cardamom prices have doubled in the last 6 months alone. Why? Unexpected flooding in Guatemala, which produces 60% of the world's supply, has wiped out nearly a third of their cardamom farms. And here's what most people don't know. Saffron, already the world's most expensive spice, is facing an existential threat. The Iranian saffron fields, which produce 90% of global supply, are experiencing severe drought conditions. Farmers are abandoning their crops because they simply can't get enough water. The problem goes deeper than just weather. As global middle-class populations grow, especially in China and India, the demand for these specialty spices has skyrocketed. Market analysts report a 27% increase in global spice consumption over just the last 2 years. What's making everything worse is that many of these spices come from small family farms using traditional methods. They can't just ramp up production overnight when demand increases or replant quickly after disasters. So, which spices should you stock up on now? Focus on saffron, cardamom, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. These 5 are facing the most severe supply challenges. The good news is that most dried spices last 2-3 years when stored properly in airtight containers away from heat and light. Don't wait until your favorite holiday recipe calls for that special spice, only to find empty shelves or prices that have tripled. A little preparation now means your kitchen won't be lacking the flavors that make your favorite dishes special. Number 1. Certain meat cuts. Let's talk about what's happening with meat. If you've noticed your favorite cuts getting harder to find or more expensive lately, you're not imagining things. The meat industry is facing a perfect storm right now. Processing plants across the country are operating at just 78% capacity due to labor shortages. Workers are leaving for better-paying jobs, and plants can't keep up with demand. But that's just the beginning. Feed costs have shot up a shocking 34% since last year. Corn and soy prices are through the roof because of extreme weather in farming regions. When farmers pay more to feed their animals, those costs get passed directly to us. And here's what nobody's talking about. New environmental regulations are changing how meat is produced. As of January, stricter methane emission standards mean smaller operations are shutting down because they can't afford the new equipment. So which cuts should you grab while you still can? First, beef brisket. This once affordable cut has become trendy for smoking and barbecue, and with processing slowdowns, prices are expected to jump 40% by March. If you love brisket, buy and freeze it now. Second, bone-in pork shoulder. This versatile cut is disappearing from shelves as processors focus on boneless options that require less labor. Recent industry reports show a 22% decline in availability already. And most surprising, chicken wings. I know, they're everywhere now. But the combination of rising feed costs and restaurant demand means retail packages will become scarce. Wholesale prices jumped 28% last month alone, and stores are getting fewer shipments. The smart move? Look for less popular cuts like chuck roast, pork belly, and chicken thighs. They offer similar flavor and versatility at lower prices. Or consider buying direct from local farmers who aren't as affected by these industry-wide challenges. What meat cuts have you noticed getting more expensive lately? Let me know in the comments. Now let's move on to our final item that's disappearing faster than expected. So there you have it. 12 essential items that could disappear from your grocery store by April 2025. From olive oil to coffee, fish, chocolate, rice, dairy, citrus, vanilla, wheat products, spices, certain meat cuts, and now eggs. These everyday items are facing serious supply challenges. Look, I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm sharing it because being prepared is always better than being caught off guard. Remember how people panicked during toilet paper shortages? Let's not repeat that chaos. Here's what I recommend. Add a few extra items each shopping trip. Build a small reserve of these essentials gradually. Don't clear shelves or hoard. That only makes shortages worse for everyone. Also, stay flexible. Try some alternatives now while you have time to experiment. Plant-based options, different grains instead of wheat, local honey instead of imported sugar. Some alternatives might become new favorites. I've created a free downloadable shopping guide with specific brands and alternatives for each item. The link is in the description below. It includes storage tips to help these items last longer. If you found this information helpful, please hit that subscribe button. I share practical, research-backed advice like this every week. No hype, just honest information to help you prepare for what's coming. Drop a comment letting me know which item surprised you most, or if you've already noticed any of these shortages in your area. I respond to every comment personally. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.